Hey everybody, welcome to your week through three. Hey everybody, welcome to your week 3 review. If you can believe it, you're actually halfway through your course now here in Leading in the Knowledge Economy. And hopefully your mind has been expanded as you've been reading and working through your assignments. And again, I'm proud of you. Your voice threads were wonderful. I enjoyed looking over your presentations that you made midweek, and I'm looking forward to digging into your papers that you've just recently submitted. Let me encourage you, keep going, keep pressing on. If you have questions, and some of you have reached out, do that. Don't hesitate. I'm here to support you in however I can. I know some of us ran into some challenges with VoiceThread this week. I'm glad you reached out. My job is to help you learn, and so I want to do my best to help you in any way that I can. Now, as we review this week's learning, especially as we focus in on the idea of teamwork, I wanted to talk for just a minute about this idea of social power. Now, we don't talk a lot about that in this course, but something came to mind for me that is very important for us to understand, and that is how we go about influencing those that we lead. And social power really is all about that. Now, some of us can leverage the authority we have because our business tells us we're the boss, and we have certain powers that come along with that. While others of us have to use more relationship building in order to influence people. But social power really is the research that goes into how do we influence people to do what we want them to do. And I've attached an article. It's a little bit dated. It comes from 1968, but it talks about something that I think is very, very important, especially for those of us who are believers, who are Christians, and are seeking to be leaders in a knowledge economy that deals with the issue of social power, particularly by looking at these two things called integral power and intercursive power. Integral power is the power that someone holds not because of the position they have, but simply because it's inherent to who they are. God has integral power over us. He is always in a position of authority over us, and therefore we are always His creation. He is always the creator, and that relationship will never change. Intercursive power, on the other hand, is power that's granted to me because of a particular role or position that I have. Many of us, in fact, all of us who work in an organization where we have authority, exercise intercursive power. In other words, there are certain scenarios where people are going to be your follower and you're going to be their leader. Yet that isn't always the case. In fact, you might go after work to play basketball on the basketball court next to where your office is located, and you don't become the team captain simply because you're the manager in the office, or you shouldn't expect to anyway. And so the author, whose last name is Wrong talks about the importance of understanding the difference between these two and understanding the value of intercursive power. That this is something that we exercise. This boils down to something that I want to share with you briefly because I don't want to take your whole evening in this video. As leaders in a knowledge economy, we have to recognize that the power we exercise, the influence that we have, is limited and often changes. And one of the ways that we can develop a strong team is through smartly leveraging intercursive power. In other words, recognize the places where you are in charge and lead well, but then also recognize that you're going to interact with team members in other scenarios where you're not the leader and you're not the boss. And you can actually develop a great sense of teamwork when you support that. When you really give your followers permission to not always have to call you the boss or the leader in scenarios where you're not naturally leading. For many years of my life, I've been a pastor in a local church. As such, I've had people that have called me Pastor Steve. And one of the places, I'll give you an example of intercursive power and the use of it. One decision my wife and I made many, many years ago is that we were going to be part of a small group, but we weren't going to lead that small group. We didn't want to lead everything in our church, and so we said, hey, we're going to be part of this small group. And one of the things that we had to do with all those folks in our small group is we had to develop a deep relationship with them. And one of the ways that we did that was by telling them, hey, if we're going to be part of this small group, we don't want to be called pastor in this group. That's a title. I know you're trying to respect us, but what we want to do is we want to connect with you as equals, and we don't want that title or that idea of authority to confuse the fact that what we are simply participants in this small group. And so by doing this, I created a deeper sense of team, a deeper sense of relationship, because people didn't see me in that formal light. Now, in other scenarios, people that were in our small group in other places will call me Pastor Steve, and that would be fine because we had that other relationship going. But as leaders in your organizations, think about the moments where you are in charge, and then think about the moments where you interact with people from work but you aren't in charge. And ask yourself, am I exercising the right kind of social power that will develop a deep sense of team on the teams that I lead in the office. Again, I hope that is an encouragement to you as you read over that paper. The other thing I want to talk about briefly here as we bring this to a close is some of the APA stuff. Now, many of you you'll see in your papers and things that I'm talking about some APA stuff, the style things. And style's a tough thing. I want you to grow in your knowledge of your field, but I also want you to grow in your skills as a scholar. So I will address those APA. I've placed some resources additionally in our course announcement page for you to review about APA and how to use that well. If you ever have questions, and some of you do, kick back to me those questions and I'll do my best to engage with them. If you have a question before you post something, go ahead and ask me and I'll do my best to answer you as well. But there's a couple of resources that I've listed in the course announcement page, and I'd really, really recommend you take a look at them. The biggest one is the APA Style blog. If you just go on Google and search the APA Style blog, this is a great resource for you because it has a customized search bar on their webpage where you can actually go in and ask very specific questions and find very specific answers, all related to APA. So I would encourage you to do that. Hey, recognize as you go into week 4, I'm praying for you. Have a great week of study, and thanks so much for listening here. Take care.